Welcome to The Purpose for Money. On this episode, we are going to talk about true purpose and philanthropic goals. I'm your host, Rob Roy Wiley, investor coach with Smart Plan Financial. I help my clients discover their true purpose for money and aligning it with their financial goals. And with me today is my co-host, Sarah Siedentoff, estate planner and probate attorney located in Buckhead, Brookhaven, the Atlanta area. Welcome. Glad to have you, Sarah. And stick around on this episode. We are actually going to discuss two foundations as examples that are near and dear to a lot of Georgians in their hearts. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Rob Roy. I'm thrilled to be here. I have the law offices of Sarah Siedentoff, and I do concierge estate planning. I strive to make the process as easy as possible, whether that means a physical visit to my office, a video conference, a meeting at a hospital, or an assisted living home. I understand the value of your time and want to make planning as easy and stress-free as possible.
Cool. So, Sarah, a client has figured out their purpose and they have decided that they want to use their purpose to help set up a foundation and give money to charities that really align with that purpose. How does somebody go about setting up a foundation? So what are some of the basics about foundations?
Defining the true purpose and intent for the foundation is a first step, and it is incredibly important to the process. The second step is organizing under state law, which you'll be organized either as a charitable trust or a nonprofit corporation. And the state, to a great extent, doesn't care what you're doing as long as it's legal. The third step is the IRS in getting your 501c3 status. And the IRS cares very greatly what it is that you said you were going to do. One of their requirements to receive your 501c3 status is that the organization actually performs the purpose which it reported to the IRS as its reason for being a nonprofit. So while step 2 doesn't rely too heavily on defining the true purpose, step 3 really does. And there are two types of corporations that you can have as a foundation. You can either donate money to other charities, and basically that is all that your foundation is doing, is identifying worthy charities in line with your goals. Or you can actually run your own charity through your foundation and actually be operating. So there are a lot of options, but those are the steps.
Cool. Now, what maybe be going through our viewers' minds is, great, how much do I need? Like, what is the average size of a foundation? If I have like 100,000, 200,000, and I want to set up a foundation, is that something that's feasible? Or what is the average size? Do you have to have multi-millions or?
No, you don't have to have multi-millions. In doing some research for this webinar, I looked at a whole bunch of different foundations, and I will say that there are a lot of foundations here in Georgia with zero assets doing nothing. So I don't think that people were stopped by the fact that they had very few assets before starting a foundation. On the other hand, the ones that were active, actually making donations, I saw everything from $18,000, a lot in the 100, 200, 300,000. Of course, there were plenty in the 1.2 million, 2 million, and then several in the multi-million dollar category. So as long as you're dedicated to actually making donations to your foundation or soliciting donations from other people on a regular basis, have at it, have a foundation.
So when should you get the family involved? You know, like the person or the client has actually established the purpose and the intent of the foundation, is got the assets to fund the foundation, so it's donating to different charities and uh, accepting grants. What when should you get the family involved, or should the family ever be involved? What are some of those what are some of the tips on that?
That is super situationally specific.
Mhm.
Obviously, if you're married, your spouse needs to be involved. So to that extent, your family should be involved. Your attorney, your financial planner, your CPA, those people should be involved from the beginning. Ideally, your family is going to be excited about this. You'd want to involve your family right away. However, not all families have the same philanthropic goals. Not all families actually want you to give away your money. And if your family is not on board with your goals, that doesn't have to stop you. So you can have them involved at the beginning. You can have them involved in the middle. You can have them not involved at all. You can have them fighting your will, trying to prevent your assets from going to your foundation. It's the whole range, and it really depends on your relationship with your family.
Cool. And I like how you brought up really involving the financial advisor, the estate planner, and the CPA towards the very beginning, which I think on you're establishing a foundation and you have the purpose and you're talking with your estate planner, you're like, yes, I'm going to establish it. I have all the assets. And not really, I mean, I know in the back of people's minds are like, the taxes and those implications and like what some of the benefits are. So I'm glad that you actually mentioned bringing to the table those professionals when you're actually considering a developing or forming a foundation. So I know you have two great examples of foundations here in Georgia. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
The two that I wanted to talk about are the Robert W. Woodruff Foundation, which was Robert W. Woodruff was president of Coca-Cola from 1923 to 1955. And then the other is the Pickett and Hatcher Educational Fund Incorporated. And Claude Adkins Hatcher of Columbus, Georgia, was the founder and for 25 years the president of predecessor companies to the company that created Royal Crown Cola. So I'm going to talk a little bit about all of the cola foundations here in Georgia. And specifically, the Woodruff Foundation donates to other charities, other organizations, and they are the type that just gives money to worthy causes. Pickett and Hatcher is actually running a loan business, and we'll talk about that a little more in a second. The Woodruff Foundation was originally established in 1937, and its name was not the Woodruff Foundation. Its name was the Trevor Foundation, which is Robert backwards, which I really like because he wanted to remain anonymous, and his foundation was for the purpose of doing good, but not for the purpose of making a name for himself. It's an independent private foundation that seeks to improve the quality of life in Georgia by investing in health, education, economic opportunity, and the vitality of the community. It's got a president and 12 staff members right now, so it's actually a very large, ongoing business. Education, health, and arts and culture are historically the top three areas of grants. And last year, in 2016, they made $142 million worth of grants to 37 different entities, and the grants ranged anywhere from $150,000 to $30 million.
Wow. I mean, what were some of the ones that they donated to, that the Woodruff Foundation?
In looking at the list, the names that really stood out to me as things that I've been to or care about: the Atlanta Botanical Gardens, obviously the Robert W. Woodruff Arts Center. They did some need-based financial aid for the University of Georgia, some updates to equipment for the CDC, and for Georgia State University, a donation to the Georgia Health Policy Center's program to educate and inform legislatures regarding healthcare policy. So they really focus on those sorts of areas: education, health, arts and culture. But again, 37 different places got very large grants.
Cool. And you mentioned another one, the Royal Koloff Foundation.
Yes. The Pickett and Hatcher Educational Fund is it's a much smaller entity. The smaller the entity, the harder it is to find good information on it. On the internet, I can't actually say how accurate this is, but it's estimated that they have about 5 employees and generate about 1.4 million in revenue a year. So that's quite a bit smaller than the Woodruff Foundation. The Pickett and Hatcher Educational Fund was created through the will of Claude Atkins Hatcher, and he stipulated in his will that a substantial portion of the money from his estate be loaned to deserving college students so that they could attend college, and it's only for those who can't otherwise afford to attend college. The money loaned is a revolving fund so that the loans are repaid with principal and interest to be made available again to other students. But there are no fees on the loans, which, if you've ever done a loan, the origination fees and all that stuff can add up. And there's only 2% interest during enrollment and 6% interest after graduation or after hours drop below a certain level. Also, the students must maintain a C average to renew a loan for the next year, which those rates are great. And I love the fact that they require the C average because that is doable, but it means that people are investing in education.
Yes, that is very true, because education is definitely important. Part of my college was on a scholarship, so definitely that's very beneficial. So on that note, on our next session or next webinar, when we're talking about foundations, we are going to explore the question of, should you set up a foundation when you're alive or after you have deceased, or after you have left this wonderful planet and gone wherever, however. Sarah, you'd like to share with our audience where they can find you, where they can reach out to you if they're interested in your services?
Well, thank you again for having me, Rob Roy. And if anyone does want to contact me, my website is atlantalegalremedy.com. And my phone number is 404-736-6066.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I love actually the name of your website, Atlanta Legal Remedy. Great, it's catchy. So.
And it's easier to spell than Siedentopf. So it's a win all around.
That is true. For those of you, I'm Rob Roy Wiley. If you want to reach out to me, I can be found at smartplanfinancial.com, where we have a lot of information about what we do and how we help our clients. I can be reached at robroy@smartplaninvesting.com or at 770-450-6625. Thank you, and see you all next time on the next episode, where we talk about, should you set up a foundation when you're alive or after you have passed away? Thanks.